start today with a pretest. So you already have the pretest that you should have already done. And then basically what I'm going to do today is give you the answers to the pretest so you can fill those in. This is something that's going to be a good guide for you, especially for the first exam. So we'll just get started with the pretest. The first question was, how many hotels are there in the United States? With that, the answer to that question is that there are almost about 54,000 hotels in the United States. So a lot of times people don't realize that there's that many hotels. So the second question is, how many hotel rooms are there in the United States? And the answer to that question is that there are about 5 million hotel rooms in the United States, which is going to lead us to our next question, which is question number 2. What's the most common size hotel in terms of the number of rooms? And the answer to that question is this. So 88.2% of all the hotels in the United States are 150 rooms or less. So that's the answer that I'm looking for if I ask what's the most common size of a hotel. The answer is 150 rooms or less, because you can see from this chart that that's the case. So most hotels are pretty small, is kind of the gist of this. So we have 5 million rooms with about 54,000 hotels, but most hotels are not the big casino hotels, the 4,000, 5,000 rooms that you see in Las Vegas. Most are small, within 150 rooms or less. Just kind of quick, this isn't one of the questions, but some areas that hotels are located in. The largest areas are suburban, and then small metro, and then urban. So you can see that that's the large majority of hotels. And the reason I have this slide is because that's the large majority of where there are small hotels. You can see that resorts are only 7%, and that's where most of your big hotels are. So most of your small hotels are in this area, whereas the resorts and a lot of airport hotels are larger too, are in different areas. So the next question is, how many people are employed in the United States in the lodging industry? All right. So how many people work in the whole lodging industry? And the answer to that is 2 million. Just kind of for interest, in the state of Texas, there's 117,000 people that are employed in the hotel or the lodging industry. The next question is, what is the average salary for a hotel general manager? And the answer to that is a little over $65,000. Okay, so question number 3 was how many people? That's 2 million. Question number 4 was what's the average? About 65,000. But that depends on a lot of factors, and I have a few slides here to kind of discuss some of those factors. So you can see that some general managers will make a salary plus bonuses and profit sharing to get a total pay. Another thing that comes into play in terms of how much money you would make would naturally be how long you've been at that job. So it makes sense that managers that have only been there for a year only make about this much, and managers that have been there for 20 years make well over $100,000. So that makes sense. The other thing that makes sense is geography. If you work in New York City, or if you work in Houston, Seattle, Las Vegas, you can see Chicago, San Francisco, that the salaries are much higher. And then also state-wise, obviously you would think that California and New York, and once again, Chicago's in Illinois, that those would be the highest level in terms of state, because cost of living, etc. So even though, last thing too, is in terms of, you can see casino resorts get paid more than any of the other segments, once again, because those are the larger hotels in Las Vegas, where you're talking about 4,000, 5,000 rooms. So naturally, those general managers make more money. So the average is 65,000, but there are a lot of factors that have to play into that fact. So there's a lot of places in major cities where they make much, much more than 65,000. Then there's small little towns where they're managing a small motel, and then they're only making maybe 40,000. So it averages out. The next question, number 5, is what were the total revenues for the U.S. hotel industry in 2014? Because that's the last time that we have data. Here's a graph showing 2001 to 2013, and you can see how it's increased steadily. There was a drop here in 08-09. We will talk about that a little bit when we talk about the hotel industry. But the answer to question number 5 is that in 2014, the hotel industry generated $176.6 billion in revenue. Okay, the 2015 numbers are still coming out, but for 2014 it was 176 billion. That will be more in 2015 because 2015 was also a good year. But you can see how it's continued to increase over the last about 6 years or so. And then another question, or question number 6, is what is the largest hotel company? And I'm going to tell you the difference between company and brand in a second. But the largest hotel company really hasn't become a true company yet. It's still in the works, but the answer is Marriott International is actually merging with Starwood. So once that happens, once the SEC and others agree that happens, which should be in a few months now, that will become the world's largest hotel company. It'll have over 1 million hotel rooms just by itself worldwide, and then it'll have almost 5,500 hotels just by itself worldwide. And then we'll talk more in the industry when we start talking about companies and their portfolios, but Ritz-Carlton, Courtyard, Marriott, those are some examples of the brands that are in that. So that leads me to brand. So there's a difference between a company and a brand. So the largest hotel brand, which is question number 7, is Best Western. Best Western as a brand has 303,000 rooms and almost 4,000 hotels. And just as early as 1990, there were only 81 brands in the United States, and now there are well over 200 different brands. And once again, when we talk about the industry, we'll go over how different companies are developing different brands. Just to kind of show you the difference, you would have the company, the larger circle here of Marriott International, and then you would have the brands as a subcategory within that company, and that'll be once again become clearer when we go over the different companies and different brands in the industry segment. So the last few questions: what is the average daily rate in the United States in 2015? The average was a nice number to remember. It was an even $120. So that's taking all 5 million of those rooms, taking over 365 days out of the year. What was the average that we sold those at? And that was $120. The same thing is with occupancy. What's the average? All 5 million of those rooms over 365 days in all those almost 54,000 hotels. On average, in the United States in 2015, we sold 66.7% of all of those rooms. So we have the 2015 numbers here, but they don't have the total revenue yet. It still takes some time to calculate that. And then I didn't ask about revenue per available room. This is an equation and some information we'll get into later on. But the revenue, what's called RevPAR in 2015 was an even $80. And then the last question is, what do you think is going to happen with ADR, RevPAR, occupancy, these operational statistics over the next year? And the answer to all of them is that they are going to increase. So projected ADR is 126, projected occupancy is 67, and then projected RevPAR is 84. So with that, that's the end of the pre-test, and then we will start the next section, which is talking about the history.